Hello, good morning. Today we bring you news of an exciting archaeological find in North Berwick.
We were absolutely amazed. We thought it would all be human remains that we'd be talking about, but to come across something that was actually zoological.
Go on and tell me, what did you find?
We found the bone of a...
Come on, what do you take us for? We weren't going to tell you just now. You'll have to wait and hear. Stay tuned to find out what you'd be so desperate to know. Plus, we're taking a very long look at excess delivery charges and talking to the man who's growing tea in Perthshire. I'm Mark Stephen, and you're listening to Out of Doors here on BBC Radio Scotland. With me this morning is Mr. Ewan McElrath.
If you've got any thoughts on today's programme, get in touch. You can send an email to outofdoors@bbc.co.uk. You can tweet us at BBC Out of Doors. We're also on Facebook. Rake around, look for Out of Doors. You'll find photographs, videos, comments.
All sorts of
absolute treasure trove of things.
We are a nation of tea drinkers, tea jennies, and as far as we know, tea has never been commercially grown in Scotland until now, that is. According to Tam O'Braan of the Wee Tea Company, tea could be a premium product worth a lot of money for Scottish hill farmers. I went along to the plantation near Dunkeld to find out how it's done.
When I first came here, I met the fellow community, the agricultural community in Strathbran, and they asked me what I was going to do here, and I told them I was going to grow tea. And there was a sort of raising of eyebrows and a few wry smiles, and they just went, aye, right. Now, what's happened is, my name's O'Brien, and as you can see, the river that marks out the boundary of our land is the Bran, the River Bran, which the whole of the glen's named after. So they've renamed me. I'm no longer Tom O'Brien, I'm Tam O'Braan.
How well does tea grow in Scotland?
Not necessarily badly, if you consider that we do have sun. We don't necessarily have it at the right moment in time, and we don't necessarily have it in the right place. So with modern agronomy techniques, we can take the benefit of brilliant soil, the best soil in the world in Scotland, very, very good water and abundance of it, and then manipulate the level of sunshine and also the humidity that can bring about, and then tea can grow in Scotland.
Where are you growing your tea at the moment?
Immediately behind the house here is what has always been the kitchen garden with protected crops in it. So this is where we first went in as a laboratory plot. It's about 1/4 of an acre. It is presently holding about 4,000 plants. Those plants were originally propagated from 3 plants we brought in from Italy.
These are the 3 parent plants?
They are, yes. That one in the middle is called Jamie. There are 3 of us involved in this, and the other one here is called Derek. It's the one with the better haircut.
Right.
And the one that looks like it's had a hard life, that's called Treefoo, and that was named by my son after me. From each one of these, we took the first 2,000 plants. Now, at first, I've got to say, mortality rates, a success rate was 1 in 10. And then we went from a success rate of 1 in 10 to what we have now, which is a mortality rate of about 1 in 3. And we're now moving from 1 in 3 mortality down to actually about 10%. So we've reversed it completely from 1 in 10 successful to 1 in 10 not working.
How would you describe these leaves? I must confess I would be struggling to describe this. It's almost like a very small laurel leaf.
Well, it's an evergreen. That's the initial thing. It is, if you by surface texture there, you see it's waxy.
Yeah.
The wax on the surface is where we get the caffeine from. And that's what attracts our bunny rabbits and our deer. I mean, they literally can smell that for 5 miles.
Rabbits are tea jennies, I had no idea.
There we are.
Who knew?
We have these leaves which, on some variants of the Camellia sinensis here, they can grow up to 5 inches, but typically you just get yourself a 2.5 to 3 inch mature leaf when it's fully photosynthesized. That's a nice dark green leaf taking in all the benefit the sun can offer. However, the leaf itself doesn't want too much sun. It will burn if it experiences too much sun, and the tea grower doesn't want the uber matured, heavily photosynthesized leaf. The tea grower wants the new growth. The tea grower literally wants to pick here, where we've got a leaf and a tip.
Right. That's tiny in comparison.
That is, yeah, isn't it? I mean, that's what...
That looks horribly labour-intensive.
You have a point. Yes, well, that's effectively why we've tried to design a system by which we can, instead of harvesting this, which is 5% of the plant, we can harvest up to, I can say 65% with confidence, and in some cases 80% of the plant. What we do is, instead of picking the finest tip, we take 80% of the leaf off. We leave the largest big leaves to continue to get the benefit of the sun, but allow, by picking backwards like this, you see, you pick not upwards, so you pull this new growth with you, you pick down. We therefore leave everything on the plant to be entirely new. We surround that heavily plucked plant in a tree guard. This tree guard contains ultraviolet light inhibitors, so UV inhibitors, much the same as your sunglasses. These retard photosynthesis by holding back 99% of the light spectrum. Growing anything...
Why would you want to retard photosynthesis in a plant?
Well, as I think my father would have been able to tell most people, my dad was quite proud of the fact that he could grow rhubarb underneath the kitchen sink without a drop of soil or water. I mean, a lot of people know this. I mean, it's been going on for 60 years. We've not far more. So we've been able to grow, force crops to grow. Rhubarb growers of Yorkshire are very proud of what they do. The asparagus growers of Spain and France do exactly the same. And you can hear, if you stand in the growing sheds, you can hear those plants growing. They're growing so fast. So if
that's not literal. You can't seriously hear them.
Oh, wow. Yes, you can.
Can you?
Yeah.
What does it sound like?
It sounds like a rather eerie form of slow creature who's eventually going to eat you. But no, you can. It's like you can hear a crackling, a groaning and crackling as those plants grow. So with asparagus, it's very, very well known, and with rhubarb. And forced rhubarb, or white asparagus, the premium products in that case, in comparison to regular rhubarb, which you can't stop from growing, or regular asparagus, they're worth a multiple of their original value. So you're looking at, in this case, with the tea, we're going to retard photosynthesis, and we're going to grow just the very, very light green leaves. That means after I've initially plucked this back and taken all the heavily photosynthesized leaves off, I'm going to end up with nothing but young, light-coloured leaves to make premium tea. The heavily photosynthesized leaf, the original, the nice dark green leaf, the one that we all refer to as healthy, that one is worth £9 a kilo if I was to process it the way that, say, the dust style tea that we get in tea bags looks like. However, this, the tip and the two leaves, well, that's graded in a completely different sense. That's a tea connoisseur's dream. The flavour that you get from that, and depending on how you process it, to make either a beautiful white tea or an oolong or a green tea, what you end up with is something which is worth, instead of £9 a kilo, it's worth 90 or 900 or a couple of £1,000 a kilo. Now, this isn't just about making money from tea, but if we're going to do it in Scotland, we may as well aim for the top end of the market. We may as well aim for something which is so prestigious that growers, either hobbyists or people with allotments or schools, all of these groups, or other farmers, I'm welcoming as many farmers as possible to come here and have a look so that they can replicate what we're doing. The idea of growing tea in Scotland is not new. It was originally offered by Winston Churchill. He absolutely wanted to save the lives of merchant seamen who were bringing in shiploads of food, and if we could have grown tea in Scotland the way he wanted, we would have ended up without so many loads coming in, without so many lives being risked.
Just watching you with this plant, it's a very, very tactile thing for you. I mean, you want to be playing with this. You want to be taking the big leaves off it to turn it into a valuable product. The backstory behind you, it would take far too long to go into, and I won't. You don't need the money with this. This is a love affair. This is something that you really want to promote because you think it's a damn good idea.
I really, really think if Scottish farming, hill farming, my neighbours are all hill farmers, and they work hard. They work very long hours. If they can do better for themselves, for their families, and for Scotland to grow a better harvest of non-typical crops of high value, I would be in love with it. I really would. It is, yes, for me. I love this particular. I actually love all of the plants that we've grown. I do want to personally be responsible for every flush that we get. The harvest in the sense of tea is called a flush, and I love the fact that when we get graded as a tea company, we get a very, very high rating, one of the world's highest ratings. If they can grow tea in some of the highest mountains, which have cold weather, which have snow, which have frost, in other parts of the world, the Himalayas, then we can do it here in the Highlands. We've got the altitude, we've got the water, we've got brilliant soil. We just really have to get hold of the fact that it's a wee bit cold at certain times of the year, and we have to nurse the plants through that section of it. And then once they've got through that section, once they've engrossed their root ball, they can handle it. They're then hardy Scottish tea plants.
Tam O'Braan of the Wee Tea Company, and if you're keen to hear more on this, then stay tuned for the Kitchen Cafe right after this programme on BBC Radio Scotland, when I get a lesson in the art of tea tasting. There's much slurping.
The Forager's Kitchen tweeted us in yesterday's live programme and made that very point. I love the partnership. Out of doors, Tea for Two, and the Kitchen Cafe, the best programmes on the radio.
Marley Mackay says, I'm not a tea drinker, but I really enjoyed the piece on tea growing and could be very tempted.
Trish on the border says, sorry to interrupt you, very interested to know how you go about getting tea plants. Great programme once again.
Well, they brought back 3 tea plants. I'm not sure if it was from China. I'm not sure where they got them from, but they're named.
Lyndon Aberdeen says, with regard to tea plantation, how do you deal with the pests? Well, you don't let Mark in.
Last week.